Hello, everyone. Welcome to another weekly Helm developer call. And thanks for joining us. Today is September 1st, 2022. And happy mailing list day, as Joe's very excited about. And as always, we follow the CNCF community guidelines, and everybody on this call is always so nice to each other. So it's just the usual reminder. And next month, October, is KubeCon. I can't believe it's coming up so fast. So as always, we start with the announcements and then any meeting topics. So please drop in the notes any topics you have or any announcements. And it looks like we have nothing on the agenda yet. So maybe we should talk about KubeCon or anything anybody would like to bring up. Open forum. And I see Subin and Balaji, did I say your name right? Wondering if you both would like to introduce yourselves, because if the others know you, well, I apologize that I don't. And welcome. Thank you for joining us. And if not, that's totally fine too. All right. Well, Andy, are you there? Andy Block?
I am here.
Okay, I think we need to talk about, and maybe not in this call, but the presentation for KubeCon.
We do not. Yeah, it's definitely not in this call, but we should definitely do that in the very, very near future. It's coming up very quickly.
I know, right? I am blown away that it is probably about 6-7 weeks away.
Yeah.
Joe, are you going to be at KubeCon?
I am not. It's well, first of all, it's Detroit.
Right? Who doesn't want to go to Detroit?
A really popular place to go, and I'm just still not into. I mean, I love going to conferences. I love the hallway track, but I'm just still not into getting that many people into one place.
Yeah, I did some traveling, and it's hard to get back in the groove of, being around people and socializing, not on a video call.
I wish there's a better way.
Yeah, same. Like, smaller events or something. But
All right, so I added something.
Sweet.
Because there's nothing else there, so I thought I might as well bring it up. So I was working with this chart, and there's some really complex logic things that happen in this chart, like and, ors, nots that are like 200 characters long, impossible to read, and so we wanted to just throw them out in defines and make it so that it was prettier to read. That's when I realized that the defined blocks will only return strings. You can't return anything else, which is okay if you wanted to do ints, because you can translate it to an int using the sprig functions, but there's no sprig functions for booleans. So I was wondering, well, first of all, I brought up the idea of having maybe a second function that would return other than strings, but I guess that's not possible with execute template. But so I thought maybe you could do, if you could somehow use the code that JSON uses for interpreting values, and then make a filter function that would do that. So true is bool, but quote true unquote is a string. I thought about just oh, this doesn't really belong in Helm. Maybe I should go to Sprig and see about opening an issue there. But I see that Sprig is dead. So would adding a function like this to Helm be acceptable? Is it a crazy idea?
So basically this would add functions to Go templating, right? Like proper, you can call something and return something, which may be even something for the Go templating language itself, right? To go in further. I don't know if they would accept this or if they, like, for whatever reason, chose explicitly not to do this. Maybe
Well,
to prevent like endless recursion or something like that. I don't know. To make sure it terminates. I don't know, whatever. But yeah.
Well, it looks like Matt Farina joined, so maybe he can jump in and
What's the issue? I missed the beginning of it.
or do you want to?
So define functions always return strings, which if you wanted an int, you might be okay because you can use the A to I function, Sprig function, and get an integer. But you can't do that with Booleans. So this chart that I started working on has lots of complex logic that all got pushed out into defines so that it's readable. And then the define always has to check it. It has this funky check that it does to determine whether or not the return is a true or false. Because they can also return other things that are not true or false, and they treat it as false. So anyway, I suggested at one point in this issue adding a Sprig function that basically trying to go upstream to Sprig and add a function that doesn't return, not just interpreting it as bool, but maybe just like a from JSON value sort of a thing, so that it uses the JSON value interpreter to interpret things in a normal way. But the Sprig project seems to be dead. There's been no activity for months, and even then it was just updating the Go language.
Yeah, so Sprig gets updated in spurts of time, and it's myself and Matt Butcher mostly. There's been some others who've had interest in it, but if I'm going to be honest, quite often people want to come in and they want to overhaul it or make mass changes, which is something that, you know, its primary user is Helm. We're not interested in making mass changes to Sprig, or even adding lots and lots and lots and lots of other functions to it, right? To end up becoming this giant amalgamation of every function that anybody would want to use in any application is also not its goal. So we'd be open to more maintainers to help move it along more quickly. But normally we get to it about every 6 months or so. You'll see a rash of behavior. Lately, I've been working on Semver. Then it'll probably be coming back around to Sprig.
Okay, cool.
And
I
so
didn't
that
realize you guys, so that makes it easier.
But if yeah, and so you can try and track me down if there's a specific thing, but we'd be open to other maintainers. But I mean that the scope of maintainership is, we think it's mostly in a pretty good place. We don't want to expand it to a lot more functions. The functions we would add are those that really support Helm. And if you're writing your own application and you want to add a lot more functions, you know, create another library. Don't it's not the one source of them all.
What about the idea of a from JSON value sort of a function where it uses the JSON interpreter to take whatever string is being returned and do something smart with it? Because it's kind of like, so you say you don't want to add a bunch of functions. That makes total sense. You don't want to expand it and have more to maintain. This is one function that does a number of things, but it does it using upstream code, and so it should be light to maintain. And
maybe. So you're essentially saying the template function would return a JSON string, and then you pass it through JSON values that turn it into something, and you got a bool again, basically. Is that it?
Yeah.
Or am I misunderstanding?
no,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't Helm have a from JSON already?
There is a from JSON, but then I have to build a dict to return it and then pick the key from that. You know, after the from JSON, then I can pick the key. It's doable, but it's kind of ugly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess this is actually true as a literal would be a valid JSON, but the from JSON built into Helm is not accepting it as valid JSON. It always, or it doesn't accept arrays or numbers as valid JSON. It always expects it to be a map. Yeah. Maybe that
Yeah.
could be
Okay.
fixed even.
Yeah, we'd have to look into that deeper. I don't remember that section of code really well. Okay.
If that's a bug, I'd be happy to look at that.
I don't even remember if it's a bug. We'd have to look. If somebody wants to look into it and figure out what's going on, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because it's returning a map string interface or something like that. And yeah, if you want to parse a JSON that's just the Boolean, which is, I think, a valid JSON. I'm not 100% sure. Then
It's going to be valid JSON, but when you do that, what is it? There's something different to it. And I think there's some background in this, but I'd have to look at the code to refresh my memory on it because it's been a couple years. Yeah.
Okay, I'll start looking at it and see if I can come up with anything.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. It looks like we have another topic. Thanks, Philip, for putting it on there. So stale change request on HIP 16. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, just the usual reminder. There's still a change request. I don't know if Matt, you have any time to look into this at a point, or if
No, I'm sorry. It was on my to-do list for this week to do it. And then I lost power and internet because my whole region had all kinds of issues with it due to storms, and it threw everything off. I have a little bit of time later today. I'm going to try to jump on that. I'm trying to use today as a get caught up time.
Okay. Otherwise, maybe someone else could just have a look instead. Whatever you think, if you have time then.
And then it looks like, Andy, you put on the HIP to include the repository URL.
Yes, just a PSA. I believe, Matt, you commented on the original one. I wanted to let everybody know that I used to work with the original HIP proposer, and he does not have time to carry it forward. So I've taken it over in a new pull request. It links in both directions. So if you're confused about the history, feel free to ping me, but it should all be there. And the issues, just would love a review on that. I did address a couple of the original questions when I took over the HIP and opened the new PR. So it does have a little bit of additional context. I realize it's a little bit of a confusing way to go about things, and I apologize for that, but he did not have the time to continue on that. So heads up.
And thanks for taking that one over. That's awesome. And Joe, thanks for your comment in chat, because that was a fast change. Congratulations. For everybody else. Joe is now at Red Panda. Hey, we have 12 minutes left. That was the last topic. Also, call for moderator notes and triage, as well as PR review, if anybody would like to volunteer.
I'm going to volunteer for triage.
Thanks, Joe. I think I'm around next week. I can volunteer for notes.
Oh, I already volunteered for notes, unless you want to take it. I'm happy to hand it off.
I could always do moderator again. Unless Matt wants to. Okay, he's not here. What's that? Sorry, Philip.
Oh, I was gonna say, I've been reviewing PRs off and on when I have time, so I'll put my name on that. again as well.
Thank you.
I have a question on that. Probably for Matt. I'm not a maintainer, so I've just been, putting my review on there, good old gray check marks. Happy to keep doing that. Is there an appropriate time to ping a maintainer for approval for something that I think is good to go? Is that something that you all just pick up as they get approved and see those approvals and that helps? Or, I guess I want to make sure I'm adding value by doing that and not just creating more noise.
I think you are adding value. If you've done that to a collection of them, can you send them my way? We probably need to get some more maintainer eyes on them, and I can take a quick look and even pass them off to some others on that whole thing.
Okay. I think there's only one or two that were good to go, and one of them got merged. Several of them I had suggested changes that haven't been picked up, so I've just let them sit until the opener comes back. But if I have a few, I will pass them your way.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, so with 10 minutes to go, unless somebody else has a topic or Matt, would you like to bring anything up?
Maybe something similar for issues. Some are like seeking for consulting, let's say, like support requests. And then oftentimes when I answer the question, and I even ask them explicitly, hey, if this resolved, please close the issue. I think there are 3 or 4 issues now still open that are actually either resolved or that didn't come back in several weeks. So yeah, maybe someone could close them. Maybe I just handle it the same way, pass it along to some of the maintainers that you can actually close them, or do we not care?
Matt, would you suggest putting those into the Helm Kubernetes Slack, the Helm developers, and asking for them to be closed? What would be the best way?
As a triage maintainer, I can close them.
You can close them too. Okay. I mean, so that we don't, what I'm wondering is, instead of pinging one person for each time, for each thing, are people still looking at the developers channel in the Kubernetes Slack? And would that be a way to ping all the maintainers in order to close things? Or
I don't know what level of activity the Slack is getting from the maintainers these days. You don't see just as much from the maintainers these days. So I'm not sure how well they're following it. I know I don't follow it very well, but I'm pulled in a lot of directions. So it's a little bit difficult for me at the moment.
So I would maybe just round robin the maintainers there. Kind of.
That's a good idea.
So yeah, if I just put it in a channel, right, then maybe 2 people look at it at the same time, maybe no one. So that's a bit of, yeah, maybe creating duplicate work. So and if they don't get closed, then it's also no big deal, I guess. Then they just stay open. Then maybe someone else will spring clean at some point.
okay. All right.
Hi, Kiran. Hi, Kiran. So this side, Kiran. So I need to know the status about the PR. Just being now in the chat. This, I need. Let me give a high-level overview of this PR. So basically, when we are doing the Helm pool OCI, our Harbor, right? Our Harbor server is configured as a mutual TLS authentication. So when the client tries to do a pull, right, so it is unable to present the certificates to the server for the TLS handshake. So for that, our developers made a fix for that. So Is there any chance that this can be reviewed?
I can take a look at it. I know there were some folks from the Flux team who were also in the process of doing a PR that was going to add a number of things for OCI support. I need to loop back up with Scott Rigsby because it was someone on his team who was working on it. So let me take that as an action item to go loop up with Scott, and then we can post in the Helm developer channel.
Okay, thanks, Andrew.
No problem.
Yeah, I remember there's I believe a HIP and several PRs and issues out around OCI certificate handling. So
Yep.
I've seen like 4 or 5, I think.
Yeah, we gotta get this fixed. It's yeah.
So I thought Scott was driving the OCI work. Is he still doing that?
He's coordinating some of it. But I know some folks on his team at Flux had some changing priorities, so they didn't have much time to commit. But I think that was like a month ago, so I'm gonna check back with him. He was on PTO last week or two, so he's back now, so I'll catch up with him.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Andrew. Well, thanks for bringing that up, Karen. All right, we have 4 minutes. Does anybody else have something they would like to bring up? Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Have a great week. And if you're in the US, the holiday weekend. So,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, all.
all right, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Right.